Hello, everyone, and welcome to the tutorial series on fine-tuning LLMs for anti-tracking in web browsers. In the previous episode, we learned how to set up our development environment. Now that it's set up, we are now ready to build up our system. In the present episode, we are going to prepare our data, and that data will be used subsequently in training the model. So let's have a look at how the data looks like, what kind of data do we need here, and prepare it. Online tracking happens in a number of ways. There can be cookies which are stored on your device or fingerprinting and so on and so forth. But one of the common parameter that can be used to detect these trackers is by looking at the URLs that are being sent to and from our browser. If we look at these URLs, there are certain elements of these URLs that you can recognize. For example, there is a protocol, there is a domain name, the top level domain, and so on and so forth. But then what comes afterwards can be quite variable. And tracking information can be stored hidden within these parameters. If we look further, then after the host name on the right hand side, you can see that there can be endpoint or resource, there are query parameters, and within these query parameters, you can have certain information, like if there is a certain campaign ID which is being sent, or specifically session ID that is being sent. Some parameters, some IDs we can recognize by their names, and some we can see that they sound like we are being tracked. So the good thing is that for most part of it, we can identify these query parameters which refer to trackers. But the bad part is that sometimes we can't. And this is where machine learning comes into play. So what we can do is to look at these query parameters and train our model to identify if these are representing a tracker or not, and proceed with generalization of this learning. Getting hold of this data online is quite difficult because due to privacy of users, such data is not widely available. So let's generate our own data. The repository that you downloaded in the previous session has a script called as data_generator.py. This script allows you to generate data which represents both the tracking URLs and legitimate URLs. And we can then use this data for training our model. What the script will do is it will create data, both legitimate and tracking URLs, and verify them, label them using easy privacy rules. Easy privacy is one of the standard lists that actually tell us which of the URL patterns are representing trackers. You can control the file name to generate training or test data. You can provide the number of data points that you want to create. By default, it will generate 15,000 URLs with a 35% ratio of tracking URLs versus legitimate URLs. And the file will be stored as a CSV, a comma separated value file under the data folder. Here's what you can do. Let's look at the data script, add more top domains, adjust the number of data points, the number of tracker ratio that you want to have, and then we create, to begin with, training data. We'll have a look how to run this in a few minutes. Let's explore the script and how does it look like. For this, I'm at my datagenerator.py script. And as you can see here, there are a few tracking patterns to begin with. These tracking patterns have been obtained using the general knowledge about trackers and also the easy privacy rules. So as you can see from the name, if there is a parameter called as ads or analytics or pixel or Google Ad Services.com, and so on and so forth, if you find any of these parameters in a URL, then most probably that URL is representing a tracking URL. To create data, to simulate data, we are using a few of the top popular domains out there like google.com, youtube.com, Wikipedia, Microsoft, Shopify, and so on and so forth. Feel free to play around with this. If you want to add more URLs, more domains over here to generate your data, you can use them. You can use any of the popular lists like SimilarWeb or Tranco to identify what are the most popular, most visited domains out there, and you can add them. Or you can use your own favorite domains as well. As we saw previously, that in this URL, there are many other parameters available as well. It's not just the domain name and it's not just a tracking ID. There are many more parameters that are there. So this script will actually allow you, in order to emulate the real world URLs, add some extensions, because there might be images that are being shared, there might be some other kind of documents that are shared, and these represent the static extensions. As you can see here, the easy privacy rules are downloaded and used. The easy privacy files, which are necessary for running the script, are already in the repository which you have. In fact, let's have a look at this quickly. So here is our repository, and you can see this is the data generator script, and this is the easy list under which you have the easy privacy files, and within this you have all the rules. Coming back to our script, these rules are then used to verify that whatever URL we are generating, is it a valid tracking URL or a legitimate URL. So the URL that we are generating by randomly using this tracking information, if these trackers match the rules in the easy privacy list, then it will be labeled as a tracker, and if not, then it will be labeled as a legitimate URL. We don't need to worry about all the script over here. It has been pre-written so that you don't have to worry about data generation. You only need to specify and customize the data that you want to create. For example, the parts which are important for you are what is the file name that you want to give here. Here we will create a file called as training_data.csv. You are also able to control how many data points do we want to have. We will begin with 1000, and you can increase it to as much as you want or as little as you want. And then we have a tracking ratio of 35%, which is reflective of how much data points are there when we compare a tracking data point versus legitimate. So on a page, we have a lot of trackers, and 35% versus 65% is a good ratio. Once you will run this, a new file will be created in the data folder, which we can have a look here. So going back one folder up, here we have a data folder. The training_data.csv file will be created in this folder. So now let's go to the terminal and run this. As we just saw, in order to run this, we basically need to run the command python data_generator.py. We need to be in our folder, and our virtual environment should be active. So now let's try it out. So we execute python data_generator, and it will take a few seconds and generate the URLs for us. So it's looking at the easy privacy rules, and then it identified the tracker distribution, and then it created those trackers for us. Let's have a quick look at the file that has been created. So let's go to our Finder, and here we can go to the data folder, and we have our training data.csv file. We can open this up, and here we have it. So as you can see here, there are two parameters, two columns for every data point. One is the URL, the other is a label, which is if it's a tracker or not. You can see some URLs. You can see 1 or 0, 0 representing it's not a tracker, 1 is representing it is a tracker. And we specified that we want to have 1000 elements, so we can see that there are 1000 elements, 1000 data points created. And if we have a quick look at some tracking URLs versus some non-tracking URLs randomly, so we can see, for example, here we have add tags, which is representing, this is a URL, which is representing a tracker. Or if we look over here, here we have something called campaign, which also indicates that something is being tracked. So this is a tracking URL. On the other hand side, this website or this URL from apple.com has a lot of parameters, like some kind of icon, some kind of page, but no tracking identifier is there. So this is a non-tracking URL. Of course, this is a synthetic data. This is kind of representing a real world data. Real world can be messy, so it's quite possible that something drizzles into one category, from one category to the other, but that's something which our model will be able to handle. And that's basically it for today. We are at the end of our data preparation step, and in the next session, we will use this data to start training our model. Try running this, and if you encounter any problems, feel free to reach out. Stay tuned and see you in the next session. Bye.